At the end of last week, news broke that Ubisoft, buyout is very much on the table. Chances are Ubisoft of 2024 won't make it to 2025, or maybe they will for the first couple of days, or maybe even potentially weeks, but it looks like, companies going private, and then ultimately, I would imagine getting bought out by somebody much bigger, folded into other larger companies, with their assets sold off, which a bunch of different financial analysts have also surmised, thinking that, if Ubisoft wants to stay afloat and if they want a chance, once they eventually do go private in the very near future, if they want to have a chance to stay solvent as a company, potentially selling off the likes of Rainbow Six Siege or Assassin's Creed, Rayman, Beyond Good and Evil, Far Cry, those things could be more valuable apart from the brand of Ubisoft as opposed to buying everything wholesale. But that's just simple speculation at this point in time. Let's just go with what's currently in the news cycle. What is trending in regards to Ubisoft itself? So Ubisoft shareholders in talks over possible buyout terms, sources claim. Shareholders of Ubisoft Entertainment are considering how to structure a possible buyout to the Assassin's Creed video game maker without reducing the founding family's control. Two people familiar with the matter told Reuters the Guillemot family, which is the largest and founding shareholders, have been in talks with Tencent and other investors in recent weeks about funding a management-led buyout of France's largest video game maker, people said, speaking on condition of anonymity. However, the Guillemot family has indicated they would like to retain the control that it has of the company, which also makes Just Dance. When was the last time they had a Just Dance game? But those used to be money printers, kind of like how Guitar Hero and Rock Band were huge for Activision and EA back in the cut. But yes, Far Cry and Tom Clancy video game series is part of the deal. People said Tencent currently the second largest shareholder by a considerable drop-off, because Tencent has a 10% or 11%, just maybe Tencent 10%, maybe that's what's sticking in my head. But I know the Guillemot family has like a 49%, they definitely have a plurality. They might have a majority of the stock, but that's the way that it's shaking out right now. But who has deeper pockets? Some French family consistently driving their brand into the ground, or the CCP's entertainment department. Who knows? But they even pointed out China's biggest social network and a gaming firm has yet to decide whether to participate in a buyout and increase its stake in the company. One of the people said this is partly because it has asked for a greater say in future board decisions, including cash flow distribution, in return for financing the deal, which has not been agreed upon by the Guillemot family. The person added discussions between the two parties are ongoing, as Tencent also wants to prevent any potential hostile takeover of Ubisoft by other investors, said the person, adding that Tencent's plan is to remain patient and wait for the founding family to agree to a deal. Yes, shares in Ubisoft rose as much as 16% after the Reuters report. Its shares were trading up 12.1% to 13.2 euros at the time that, this announcement of, it looks like a buyout is very much in the near future for Ubisoft. After that news went out, for the first time in a long time, there was actually a positive spike in the shares, as opposed to, oh my god, how low can they actually go? Because as we've been talking about this throughout the year, Ubisoft's valuation as a company has dropped precipitously over the past year. Over the past 5 years, lost 85% of its value. This was a once great studio. I've talked about it and I've extolled its virtues, and now that we're on the doorstep of the Game Awards, which is now supplanted E3 is the big event for, gaming, which, E3 used to be Christmas for gamers. But now you have something that's just a couple of weeks away from proper Christmas, and it's more or less like, opening up your stocking. A bunch of trailers for a bunch of shit that more than likely not that excited to play. Oh wow, another movie game. A bunch of cinematics that aren't exactly representative of the gameplay that you might eventually get some sort of experience out of. I don't know, maybe Ubisoft will pull something out of the hat on Thursday. We'll see. Probably do a proper video dedicated to the Game Awards in the very near future. Not so much recapping the awards, but just maybe any of the cringe and the big announcements that are there, because there's a bunch of teases. Xbox looks like they're teasing something. I think Tekken 8's final character is going to be there. Square Enix, I don't know, maybe announcing that long-rumored Final Fantasy IX remake, or hopefully, the only thing that I want, you guys already know this, the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth PC port. Just announce it, for Christ's sakes. Give the game of the year, but I don't really care. The game is still fantastic, even if it doesn't win one of Jeff's little Dorito trophies. But Ubisoft buyout is now stalling as the Guillemot family fights to maintain control, which is, a little extrapolation on what we just read right there. Ubisoft has been in a bad way as of late, with financial woes of the series, of failed games dogging the once powerful studio. The Guillemot family, who started Ubisoft back in 1986. Holy Christ, man. Like, it was them and Activision making games back in the late 80s, like Atari. They were the only off-brand companies that are out there. And now that Activision has been bought up by Microsoft, it's like Ubisoft is the largest non-corporate affiliated brand that's there. But at this point in time, man, like, you're getting way more liability than you'd actually get value out of the brand. So that's why things are not so open and shut when it comes to making this deal. The company needs to buy up stock and privatize it if it has any hope of staving off a hostile takeover. Yeah, exactly. Seeing partners like Chinese company Tencent, which already owns 10%. I was right, of Ubisoft. However, negotiations have reportedly hit a snag, with the Guillemot family fighting to maintain control of their studio following the buyout, which this is so retarded. Hey, look we've been in charge of the company, even though it is like completely fallen off a cliff. And yeah, we want your money so we can continue to do the stuff that makes our stock worthless. You win? Like, no, of course not. So stupid. It's like funding a crackhead who said, no, don't worry guys, this time I'll get clean. I got somebody blowing off all the ashes from their crack pipe. Like, why would you leave them in charge? They've been making terrible decisions for at least a decade at this point, because Ubisoft, I used to play a hell of a lot of their games. Talked about this ad nauseum. Big fan of Assassin's Creed and Far Cry. But those have fallen off big time. And now, well, they're just good comedy fodder. And that's about it. According to Reuters, Tencent wants to, more of a say in the boardroom decisions within Ubisoft, which is, oh boy, it's very funny, right? Because Tencent, CCP affiliated, CCP owned and operated, if we're being completely honest. But the way that Ubisoft, right, like how they've adopted all of these ESG woke policies, okay, without relying too heavily on that narrative, it's very funny how they were riding high and then they started to do all of that shit that is pushed by these Chinese-backed corporations, and then they drive down their value as a company, and then all of a sudden a big Chinese firm wants to swoop in order to buy up something for pennies on the dollar. Strange how that cycle is going right now. Not saying anything nefarious at play, because I can't really prove it. I'm just saying it's an interesting phenomenon to note, and that's for sure. However, yes, if Tencent walks away, Ubisoft will be vulnerable to minority investors banding together to wrestle control of the company away from the Guillemots. Exactly. So they could be stuck with a situation where, okay, we want to maintain control, but what do we want, a 25% say in the decisions moving forward, or just we want a no percent say after the takeover? But there's also, yes, like I alluded to a little bit earlier, a third way that Ubisoft could be going private here. Industry expert and Super Data founder Joost van Druen, however, believes Ubisoft will go private and start selling itself off piece by piece. Ubisoft is headed for privatization and dismantling in 2025, share price plummeting from $28.19 to a 12.3 year over year. The company has become an attractive takeover target. Its valuable assets, particularly Siege and the Assassin's Creed franchise, could be worth more separately than together. Hey, how dare you leave out their burgeoning Star Wars market? How dare you dismiss that? There's dozens of people playing it on Steam. The upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows still faces stiff competition from PlayStation's Ghost of Yotei. I guess didn't really think of comparing the two right there, but it's also releasing in February, the same time the Monster Hunter Wilds Avowed, which we'll be talking about later today, and another big flagship title. Oh, I forget, but yeah, there's stiff competition in that release window, which years gone by, if there was an Assassin's Creed coming out, everybody outside of Call of Duty was getting the hell out the way. Back when Assassin's Creed was cooking, when it was back in its yearly release schedule, yeah, you'd have an Assassin's Creed drop first, you'd have a Call of Duty drop later, and that was your third and first person fix done and dusted in the late 2000s, early 2010s. I remember, I was there, and guess what? Gaming was good. You would actually look forward to that stuff at the end of the year. Yeah, you'd know, okay? You'd be saving up everything because the big AAA releases were coming fast and furiously, and now they're just furious. And it's at gamers. But he goes on to note the Guillemot, going back to the analyst here, have stubbornly stuck to a failing business model. Ubisoft's development approach remains stubbornly outdated in an era demanding player engagement and community building. Player engagement and community building. So listening to your audience and having a reliable brand. Maybe, hopefully that's what you mean. Without a fundamental shift in how they develop and maintain games, they risk further alienating, yes, both investors and players. The XDefiant shutdown, oh yeah, right, isn't just another failed launch. It's a symptom of a company that insists on catering to a passive audience, while failing to recognize the urgency to rethink distribution. Yeah, no, definitely the distribution side of things. Even though XDefiant was free to play and was set up like several other live service games, ones, yes, that both hit and others that miss, but the passive audience, that's what's interesting, because there's a lot of different terms that potentially we're using the same definitions for. It's just different wording. A passive audience. Okay, so are you referring to the freaks that are on social media that would go, oh my god, I like love yeah, XDefiant is like giving punk rock vibes, where they're all, foolhardy about promoting it all over social media, but in actuality, when it comes to putting down money, those people are broker than the joke that Ubisoft has become. So they're not looking at their active, supportive audience. They're just simply looking at those transient likes and shares that don't pay the bills and have led to Ubisoft losing over half of their stock price in 1 year and 80% of their value in the past 5. So Ubisoft's future, it's looking a hell of a lot different than their present. It's just what's going to end up happening. Shareholder revolt or a Chinese takeover. Either way, they've got to release Shadows, and bro, the more we find out about that, the funnier this situation gets. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.